Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well. And go and get yourself that fizzy drink and that lovely, refreshing cocktail, whatever it is that you enjoy drinking, and let me know about it if it's something different and unusual. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and the thumbs up, and let's get started with tonight's story. Dear Sarah and all your lovely listeners, growing up in the fun-loving community of Huntington Beach, which is a California city southeast of Los Angeles, was quite literally a wonderful life. Many would consider me exceedingly privileged and blessed to live in such a magnificent part of the world, and they would indeed be right. The weather is very warm during the summer months, and the focus of everything, including the pier, is a cornerstone or bedrock of beach life. I'd been raised here with my brother Brady, as my parents are both zealously passionate marine biologists who spend much of their time rescuing injured sea life, like a sea lion being badly injured by a boat, which happens more than I care to mention. Sometimes with such devastating consequences that my mother is quite literally forced to end its suffering by putting down the poor creature. Then there's a random isolated incident from time to time of a whale being beached. Then there's a white shark tangled up in a fishing rope sometimes, or a dolphin with a fishing hook embedded in its pectoral fin, and so much more. We live in a geometrical square-shaped open-plan house that embodies clean lines, literally situated across the road from the beach. Very convenient. This eco-friendly, minimalistic home is designed with practicality in mind, fully embracing and endorsing modern, clean, contemporary design, built to maximise the benefits of the prepossessing ocean views, complemented by the towering palm trees that, like skyscrapers, pencil up proudly into a cobalt blue sky. We have floor-to-ceiling windows, large sweeping patios on the highest elevation, where we can thoroughly enjoy sundowners at night, while we watch the arresting sunset over the peninsula, which is magnificent to glimpse. Indeed, there's nothing quite like it. If I wake up early in the morning, sometimes I sit on the comfortable leather couch with a cup of coffee in my hands. I watch in mesmerised, appreciative, reverent awe the ocean shimmering in the morning light, the top of the water bespeckled with a twinkling glaze. Truly, there are no words. It can be transfixing to behold, especially when the sun rises over the horizon. The sky is dappled with resplendent billowing ribbons of golds, oranges, pinks and yellows. I often see seagulls soaring in the blue sky, early in the morning, squawking loudly with their choking calls. Surfers gliding and riding the ocean waves with a masterful seamlessness, as if they're one with the waves, their feet so effortlessly anchored to the board, with a balance and agility of note. Then there are people running across the beach, often with a dog wagging his tail at their side. We have a telescope from our home permanently pinned on the ocean, so we can watch the comings and goings on the beach and in the ocean waves itself. If we get terribly, terribly lucky, on the odd, rare, infrequent moment, we might get the precious sighting of a pod of dolphins gliding through the ocean waves, which doesn't happen very frequently, I hasten to say. Me and my brother Brady are very keen surfers. We've grown up in a relaxed, congenial, friendly beach culture and environment, with volleyball on the beach, skateboarding, roller skating, fires and picnics on the beach, lots and lots of ice cream. You can't live by the beach and not thoroughly enjoy ice cream, or there's something seriously wrong with you. In truth, I can't imagine living anywhere else in the entire world but by the ocean. I love the smell of the salt in the air, the rich oxygen that infuses my lungs, the feel of my feet sliding through soft beach sand as I run towards the crashing waves. Even watching the waves rolling flamboyantly towards the shoreline is one of the most relaxing, exhilarating things I know to do. And if I'm feeling down and discouraged or disenchanted, or the day has been clouded with so much disappointment, or dappled by sadness or sorrow, if my heart is heavy with regret and disappointment, the ocean is my antiseptic, my tranquilizer, It soothes a troubled soul. It washes away tears. It uplifts spirits. In truth, there is no antidepressant quite like it. Here at Huntington Beach, we have magnificent ribbons of beach that stretch back for literally miles, and there's nothing better in the world than taking a long walk on the beach sand and exploring many of the exciting rock pools. I love studying all the creatures in the rock pools. I'm in awe of what creatures I might find there, swept in by the ocean waves the following morning. I have a particular fascination for starfish, and will often lift them out of a rock pool and study them closely. If they're upside down, I replace them back in the water, the right side up. Otherwise they can't move. It's a Saturday morning and it's still dark as I climb out of bed and meander towards the kitchen to retrieve a glass of fresh orange juice from the fridge. The orange liquid fills the tumbler. I gulp back the rich sweetness gratefully, instantly feeling refreshed and revived as my blood sugar appreciates the lift. I'm still in shock over the ambiguous, outlandish, idiosyncratic events of the previous night. I must have only slept for a couple of hours last night. The fact that I managed to get any shut-eye at all is a miracle in itself. The latter part of the evening was so astounding that in the cold light of day I have to pause for reflection, as if I need to personally substantiate and validate what actually transpired. It feels like an illusory, fictitious kind of dream. But even when I ruminate and deliberate over everything, I can feel my pulse racing all over again, my heart thundering violently through my chest, my hands becoming clammy with sweat. I brood over the memories, conspicuously aware that I'm exceedingly lucky to be alive. But unscathed or unruffled, I most certainly am not. I illicitly recollect things so vividly. I know without a shadow of a doubt that the venturesome drive my brother and I took last night will be indelibly entrenched in my mind for as long as I may live. Some things cannot be expunged. Some thoughts cannot be confiscated or shredded up like paper, for indeed their arousing impact is so graphically dramatic, so grippingly pronounced, so hauntingly provocative, it can never retreat to the back of your mind, for it is a nonsensical cryptic event that clings to you like a sticky spider web that you simply cannot shake off. The night had started with a benign innocence. There was nothing incongruous or untoward about this night that spoke of anything unfavourably inauspicious making its appearance known. It all began with my feeling exceedingly angry with my brother. My brother and I never argue, but last night was explosive. Me and my brother said things to each other that I do regret. There are some things you just can't unsay. I know my brother is looking out for me, but some of the words he used last night were rather stinging. Furthermore, the way he behaved was so humiliating, I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Sometimes it feels like he's interfering in my life, putting his nose where it's not wanted. My love life is none of his business, but he has decided it most certainly is. Of course, when I tell my parents how annoying my brother is, they always take his side. "Darling," my mother says to me, "you're lucky to have a big protective brother watching your back." Watching my back? Is she kidding? More like pouncing down on me like a bird of prey, watching me with his piercing blue eyes, never letting me out of his sight for a single moment. Last night at the beach party, when my brother saw Dylan sitting next to me on a rock away from the main group, happily chatting by the fire, he was not happy. We were sharing a cigarette together, but my brother marches over the beach sand with a furious indignation, and literally came and parked himself down on the rock right next to me. There was a scowl on his face which he tried to conceal, but I saw it very, very clearly. "How are you, sis? How's everything going tonight? Enjoying yourself, are we?" he says, his blue eyes looking at me with the "what the hell are you doing" kind of look. I knew exactly why he was there. He wanted Dylan to lose interest in me, to walk away. I'm sure Dylan didn't want my brother breathing down his back like a dragon. But impressively, Dylan stood his ground, stayed sitting by my side, drinking his beer, sharing his cigarette with me, while willfully ignoring my brother. I was over the moon. Do you know how long I've wanted Dylan to give me the time of day, to show some interest in me? Every girl in Huntington Beach fancies Dylan. He's the hottest boy on the beach, so handsome with his Brad Pitt-like looks. And to boot, he's quite literally the most incredible surfer I've ever seen. He rides the ocean waves with a masterful seamlessness that is mind-blowing to watch. He wins all the championships for surfing. Naturally, tons of girls swoon over him like bees around a honeypot. But I choose not to be one of them. I mean, it's embarrassing the way some women throw themselves at him. Do they have no pride or self-respect? I often wonder. I can see my brother is not impressed. He's giving me the evil eye. He pauses for a moment and then says, "Sis, don't you think it's time you go home?" Is he kidding? The night is still so young. And the most drop-dead gorgeous man on Huntington Beach is sitting right next to me and is showing interest in me, thank you very much. And my brother wants me to go back home with him. No, I don't, Byron. I'm quite happy here. Now would you please leave us alone? Dylan smirks at my brother. You heard her. Leave us alone, please. Your sister doesn't want her interfering big brother breathing down her back. And frankly, I don't blame her. What are you doing hanging around here like a spare part? My brother's jaw is clenching. I'm watching out for my sister, Dylan. Everyone knows what you're like around here with the girls. I don't trust you an inch. My sister isn't like all the blonde floozies you date. Get that? I'm going, he says, and turns to Dylan. If you lay a finger on my sister, Dylan, you are dead. You hear that? Dead. Loud and clear, mocks Dylan. We watch my brother walking away. He glances gingerly over his shoulders at me. I know he's never liked Dylan Crobler. I can see a worried, perturbed look on his face, as if he's reluctantly hesitant to leave me with this young, handsome man. I'm secretly wondering who he trusts less, me or Dylan. Your brother's a big jerk, says Dylan, handing me his cigarette. I take a drag. He means well, I say, finding myself defending my brother's corner, for reasons I cannot fathom. But you're right, he can be quite a big bully. Means well, ha ha, says Dylan. Your brother was virtually breathing down my back when he was sitting here, watching me like a vulture hovering over a carcass. I don't know how you can put up with a brother like that. If I were in your shoes, it would drive me completely mad. I want to ask Dylan why he's chosen to sit next to me. I wouldn't think I was his type. He's always gone for blonde women with golden skin. I have long dark hair and fair skin. I never seen him with a girl like me before. It must be as if Dylan is reading my thoughts, because he pipes, I really like you, Tonya. He suddenly takes my hand in his and gives it a tight squeeze. I have liked you for a long time, you know. His voice sounds serious, his words intense. He sounds sincere, earnest even. I'm astonished by this revelation, I have to tell you. I blurt out, but I'm so not your type. You like a particular look, don't you? Dylan frowns. Who told you that? Well, you can see it, I said. All the girls I've seen with you. They all look exactly the same, almost carbon copies of each other. Suddenly I see my brother storming over to us. He appears to have changed his mind, doesn't want to leave me alone. He no longer hides how piqued he is. The frustrated exasperation on his face seems to have grown terribly fierce. He rather reminds me of a disgruntled, cantankerous sea lion, and you don't mess with a grumpy creature like that, if you know what's good for you, that is. Get up, sis, and no arguing. You're coming with me now. He pulls me up from the rock. With one arm he drags me across the beach. Leave me alone! Stop it! I protest. Leave me alone! You can't tell me what to do! Leave me alone! I glance over at Dylan. He's shrugging his shoulders in a nonchalant indifference, as if me getting up and going is no skin off his nose. But only moments before, he was telling me how much he liked me. Can you believe that? I realise that that is what he possibly tells all the girls. It makes my ego sink somewhat. I watch him walking over to the campfire to talk to a bunch of girls who are looking at him with dewy eyes. I think he really fancies himself rather too much. He's got an insatiable ego. Before I know it, he's actually pulled up a blonde girl by the fireside, and he begins to smooch her passionately, while making absolutely certain I'm watching him. I can see he's thoroughly enjoying this performance. My brother's right, he is a creep, but I'm not going to admit he's right, or give him the satisfaction of knowing that I actually secretly agree with him. My brother didn't see Dylan with the blonde girl, putting on that amorous show for my benefit. Boy, I'm glad he didn't, as I wouldn't hear the end of it otherwise. He'd be saying, "I rest my case. The guy's a jerk." It's dark on the beach. I hear the waves of the ocean crashing against the shore, while the silver shafts of moonlight trickle over the beach in an ethereal luminescence. There's a soft breeze blowing. I can see the towering palm trees with their feathery heads jiggling in the breeze. My brother is pulling me hard by the hands, failing to realise that I'm not protesting anymore. My feet glide through the soft sea sand, while the murmurs of the flamboyant, overexcitable, exuberant beach party, with the shrill squeaks of women and the deeper shouts from men, fade and grow fainter and fainter as we finally cross the road towards the familiar square abstract silhouette of our home. There's only one light on in the upstairs bedroom. My parents are possibly up reading in bed. My brother and I finally reach the garage of our home. He pulls open the garage doors. They make a grinding sound. He jiggles with the car keys in his pockets and walks towards the passenger door of the truck, opening it for me. "Get into the car. You and I are going to have a long talk together," he says in a no-nonsense tone of voice that I simply cannot refuse. "What about?" I ask. "About you. Sis, you've got a lot to learn. You're 18 and you're not exactly very experienced with life, especially when it comes to boys. You're terribly naive, very ignorant." "I'm not," I protest. "I'm sorry, but you are, sis. Now get in the car." Before long, my brother is driving through the Huntington area. We're travelling south on the road past Warner. Eventually we drive past the lovely stretch along the Bolsa Chica, with unobstructed views of the ocean on one side and the ecological reserve along the other, with trails among the tidal zone. It has salt marshes, coastal dunes, seabird nesting islands. Of course, given it's dark, it's impossible to appreciate the beautiful scenery or see anything of that. We're driving down quiet roads as my brother is gripping the steering wheel so tightly. I can see his white knuckles showing. I know he's trying to suppress his frustration and not doing a good job about it. His heavy-duty rubber wheels smoothly follow the sweeping curves of the asphalt roads as they glide past the ocean. There isn't a solitary soul in sight. I'm beginning to enjoy this drive, although I certainly could do well without my brother's lecturing voice droning on and on about my whimsical naivety, my inept puerility, my callow ingenuousness, and how I have an awful lot to learn about men. I can see the silhouettes of the rosewood and cypress trees intermingled with pencil-tall straight silhouettes of palm trees, along with the billowing shapes of the landscape under this dark velvety night. "Look, Tanya, I'm not trying to be funny, but why on earth were you sitting next to Dylan on the beach this evening?" "He came and sat next to me. He told me he's always liked me." "Did he now?" said my brother, tensing in his seat, his back visibly becoming as straight as a pencil. "And you believe him, do you? You buy into that little chat-up lion?" "I'm not sure, I say. I think he actually meant it." "Don't believe a bloody word that young man says. He has an ego on him the size of Los Angeles, and he thinks that every young girl on the beach fancies him rotten. He's not interested in you, sis, for your riveting personality. He just wants to add another notch to his bedpost. Do you get my drift? I don't comprehend why women like him at all. I mean, they throw themselves at him. It's something that baffles me continuously." "Well, isn't it obvious? He looks like Brad Pitt." "You know what I think. We men are often accused of being visual, with an eye for a pretty lady. But you women are far worse when it comes to men. I see the way the young girls drool over Dylan. It's absolutely nauseating to watch. In truth, it makes me scandalously sick to the stomach." You're a fine one to talk. You can't accuse women of being visual. Look at you. All your girlfriends have been pretty. I've never seen you date an unattractive woman before. Yes, but if they were pretty with no personality or sense of humour, I would drop them so fast like a hot potato. But you, sis, the way you were looking at Dylan tonight, it got me grievously worried. The man has the personality of a tadpole, the charm of a bullfrog. But when you were sitting with him, you looked like all the other women on the beach, in awe of him. So grateful that he was showing an interest in you, sis. You know how pathetically sad that is? It's like you don't appreciate what an amazing woman you are. That Dylan should have been honoured to be in your presence, not the other way round. You don't see how incredible you are, sis. You can do so much better than the likes of Dylan. So don't you dare sell yourself short. Do you hear me? Don't forget I've heard Dylan talk about women. He has no respect for them at all. He boasts about the one-night stands he's had with them. If you got involved with him, he'd eat you up alive and spit you out. That's what he does with every woman he dates. None of his relationships have fortitude, commitment, or any staying power. They're like passing ships in the night. Meaningless, futile, freckless, nonsensical. Now look at Mum and Dad, sis. They have the most phenomenal marriage. Their relationship is based on friendship. They're still madly in love today. We can learn from their example. You, sis, need to find who you are. Find a relationship with someone who's interested in you for who you are inside, for that's what really matters. Don't get caught up in all this superficial stuff. What is that over there, I ask, pointing at something dark in the middle of the road through the windscreen window. What is what? Asks my brother. Over there, can't you see it in the middle of the road? My brother cautiously slows down his truck. The tyres squeak as the car grinds to a jolting, jerky stop. What the bloody hell? That's when we see him. There's a tall, dark, tenebrous silhouette standing in the middle of the road. The light of my brother's truck headlights fully engage this creature's ambiguous, polysemantic appearance. What in God's name is that? Are the first thoughts that leap into my mind like a frog on a water lily. What I'm seeing is so terrifying, so bewildering, so startling, that for a moment I hold my breath, as if I'm being submerged and tossed under the water by a large, powerful, forceful wave. My heart is whipping in my chest like a rotary beater on full throttle. My chest tightens significantly. My brow glistens with sweat, while the hairs at the back of my neck stand up on edge like hedgehog prickles. Never before has fear seized my body with such a physical, jarring force. I feel as if I'd been tasered by a stun gun, become disorientated and confused. My brother's eyes have grown so large. He gawks at the creature in total astonishment and befuddlement. I can hear his heavy breathing. If I'm not mistaken, I think I can also discern the rapid walloping sound of his own heart, crashing like the ocean waves against his chest wall. It is as if for a moment we believe we're being ensnared or incarcerated in a nightmare from which we will surely awaken. But the reality dawns on me, like a blinding revelation, that this is no spurious illusion. What we are beholding is not a hallucination or an obscure vision. It's hauntingly real. The hideously ugly, grotesque creature towers at about 7 foot tall, with a powerful chest that tapers down to a slender, rather tiny waist, and long, lanky legs. He has human-like hands and feet, with talons for nails. His face is human, but with a dog-like muzzle that reminds me rather of a wolf. He has a long, swishing tail, and when he walks and the tail flickers and he becomes angrier, it becomes more agitated, and the tail almost curls up. He stands up proud and tall on his 2 feet like a man. He's covered in dense, thick black hair that glistens under the silvery shadows of the moon and the bright, dazzling headlights of our car. The creature stands in the road, glaring at us through his bright red, menacious eyes. He retracts his lips backwards to reveal his jagged, sharp, white canine teeth that protrude violently from pink gums like ivory knives. The creature screams, The screams morph into a growl. His screams are ear-piercingly shattering. They're reminiscent of an ambulance siren, only far worse. He's now leaning over our car bonnet, glaring in at us through the glass pane. Oh my God, is this really happening to us? Please God, no, this isn't happening. No, this isn't happening. But it is. I can see foaming white spittle forming on his lips, while his wide nostrils flare. He is sniffing loudly, as if he's smelling us. He begins to salivate and drool. Long droplets of gelatinous spittle begin to trickle down the windscreen. It's disgusting. In my opinion, it's as if he's dreaming of a juicy steak, and he's seeing me and my brother as that juicy steak that he really wants to get his teeth into. I get the sense he's hankering to eat us. The malevolent expression he's wearing on his face is so sharp and cutting, it saws through bone, marrow, and sinew. We get the real impression that he's filled with an immense Luciferian kind of hatred towards us. If you were to tell me he was a demon that was conjured up from the fiery pits of hell itself by Satan worshippers, or summoned up by the use of a Ouija board, I would absolutely 100% believe you. I can see this creature gets off terrorizing us, as if he's revelling and delighting in our fear, is almost drinking and lapping it up like a sweet bouquet, like a fragrant honey or a rich floral nectar. The creature grabs the bonnet of the car. With his thick fingers that rather remind me of stubby chipolata sausages, he scratches and claws the pristine metal of my brother's car, up and down with his scissor-like razor-sharp claws that he flexes, rather reminding me of a lion's. With little trouble he peels away the green paint, all the while scrutinizing our reactions, tasting our terror, as if revelling in delectable mouth-watering hors d'oeuvres on a dinner plate. I'm frozen in absolute terror, like a wax statue at Madame Tussauds, as in this moment every tense muscle in my body has become rigidly inactive, impassively benumbed, as if fear itself has quite literally hijacked every single cell of my body, incarcerating my whole being, for I seem unable to flinch even, not even flicker an eyelash, or even twitch the corners of my mouth. I have never felt such an all-consuming, pathological fear, fully capable of enervating me. The creature's growling is relentless. He sounds like an aggressive Rottweiler dog, in the throes of a vicious attack. But these growls, oh, there's nothing like them. They're 1,000 times more vicious, more intimidating and threatening than any dog's would be. With every brow-beating growl, it certainly feels as if the serrated knives of his teeth are piercing and tearing through our flesh. It's a tormenting, daunting and traumatizing experience, of which I hope I will never have to repeat. I notice the eyes are black as night. There is no warmth in their depths, not even a faint glimmer of humanity, not a trickle of kindness. At home we have a dog called Bella with black eyes, but you discern love, beauty and adoration in their depths. By contrast, this creature's black eyes reflect like mirrors hell and damnation. The creature wears his iniquitous, menacing energy, rather like a dark cape around his shoulders that envelops him. He begins to slam his knuckles into our bonnet, making huge dents in our truck, as if it's an amusing game to him. Bang, 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 bang. The clamorous sound goes right through me, like a jackhammer drill. All I can think about is, when is this going to be over? Are we ever going to get away from this monster? And is he going to kill us? Graphic images torment my mind. I have haunting visions of our car being found smothered in our own blood, with globlets of jellied body parts lying strewn all over the road, the remnants of our physical bodies. I can see the headlines graphically in my head of the newspapers. Bizarre, mysterious killing of Huntington siblings, the remnants of their bodies lying scattered over car seats, and strange scratches discovered all over the car. What manner of beast could have killed these innocent victims, who were just innocently going for a drive? Every time this creature pounds into the metal with a fist, he makes this gratifying ooh-ah sound, again and again. He effortlessly creates huge indentations in the bonnet that is now beginning to look like deep craters. I'm freaking out. What if he breaks into our truck? What then? If he does, we'll be finished. This creature will definitely kill us. Drive! I screamed to my brother. For God's sake, drive! Drive! The creature appears to nimbly walk up our car, with such agility, like he's climbing a moving staircase. My brother reverses the car. He begins to drive as fast as he can, rarely putting his foot down hard on the accelerator, in the faint hope we can throw this vicious beast off our hood. But we don't hear a loud bump, as you might expect, of something falling off the car, so we can only assume that he's still up there on the hood of the car. My brother looks at me, with eyes filled with trepidation and abject terror. Has the creature gone? He asks me in a faint whisper. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I whisper, pointing up to the roof with a finger. I think he might still be on the roof. What are we going to do? He's going to kill us. I know he's going to kill us. I know we're going to die. I can feel it. I can feel it. We're going to die. My brother accelerates his truck again. I glance in the back window. I see no sign of the creature. I'm not sure if he's there or not, I tell him. Before I can say anything, we see this captious, menacing creature's face, leaning over the windscreen, glaring in at us. He must be lying across the hood to be peering in at us directly like this. Oh no! I cry out to my brother. Oh no! What are we going to do if he breaks the window? He could grab one of us. He begins to growl so fiercely. I scream again, especially when he hammers at the windscreen violently, pounding the glass with his knuckles. He's taunting us. The windows of my brother's truck have conjured up these spiderweb-like breaks. We both cry out. Go! Drive as fast as you can! You've got to shake him off the bonnet now! My brother accelerates again. The pugnacious, truculent creature is leering in at us. He has the longest pink tongue I've ever beheld in my life. To my disgusted revulsion, he begins to lick the windscreen up and down like a popsicle, the revolting drool spilling out of his mouth generously, sliding treacherously down our windscreen, in streams of glue, globlets of Portuguese man-of-war-type jelly. I can tell you this for a fact. This contentious creature is lapping up our fear, feeding on it in a wild, frantic frenzy, like a pool of piranhas being exposed to blood. It appears to be getting highly aroused by our angst. My brother continues to try every manoeuvre he can think of to thrust this creature off his car, banging the car here, banging it there. But the bellicose creature remains firmly fixed on the car, his eyes glued on my brother. In a trice, my brother stops the car, very suddenly. What the hell is going on? I cry out in horror. My brother is behaving very strangely. He looks as if he's become locked in a cryptic kind of trance, almost as if he's hypnotized. He's bloody opening the car door. I can't believe it. You've got to be kidding me. Is he completely out of his mind? Is he stark raving mad? What the hell is he doing? I try my level best to stop my brother from opening the truck door by thrashing him with my arms as hard as I can. But it's a futile, impossible struggle. My brother is a lot stronger than I am, and despite my desperate protests, it's as if they fall on deaf ears. He pushes my hands away. Finally, he opens the driver's side door of the truck. I watch agog. My brother walks towards this monstrous beast, like a prey to its predator, with an unfazed, undaunted expression on his face. But his eyes appear like glazed marbles, as though he's locked in a trance. Now he's standing in the middle of the road. The creature is pouncing on top of him, flinging him violently onto the ground with one hand. This is not happening. Please, God, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. What am I supposed to do? I spontaneously jump into the driver's seat, my hair standing up on the back of my neck. If I don't do something right now, this creature is quite literally going to kill my brother. I need to run him over, crunch him to death with my wheels. My heart is pounding, my mind racing. My stomach feels as if a hive of hornets is buzzing around my guts. I press my foot on the accelerator, driving my brother's car forwards. The creature quickly, artfully stands behind my brother, who's lying on the ground like a steak on a plate, waiting to be consumed. The creature's face looks triumphant. He knows that for me to successfully get to him, I have to run over my brother first. Oh my word, what am I supposed to do? The creature is bending over my brother, when quite suddenly I hear bang, 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 and then the creature falls back. He's lying there dead on the road. I feel the relief wash over me, like a tsunami of joy. 2 men in army uniforms with high-powered rifles come running towards us. "Sorry about that," says one of the men, grinning at me through the car window, which I quickly wind down. "Are you all right?" he asks me, looking at me with a concerned look on his face. I think so. I think so." "Good. I'm heartily relieved to hear that. You're lucky we got here in time. A local woman phoned emergency services half an hour ago. The information was redirected to us forthwith. She reported seeing a monstrous wolf-like humanoid looking at her through her bedroom window. She was terrified, certain that the creature was going to eat her. They live a mile up the road. We got here at once. We've been searching the immediate vicinity. Her husband was apologizing profusely to us, telling us that his wife has a vivid imagination, was clearly seeing things. But based on her excellent description, we knew exactly what she'd seen. We've been looking for this critter for a while. He ate a lady last week, so he's got a taste for human blood. We found her remains on the beach last weekend." I stare at them in abject horror. You've got to be kidding me. What is he? Is it a Bigfoot? "Sorry, love, that's classified information that I'm not at liberty to reveal to you. I've already said more than I should, which will not please my superiors. Who is that lying in the middle of the road?" he said, looking at my brother lying flat on the ground. "He is all right, is he not? I forgot the marksman was saying he had to avoid hitting a human on the road. That must be him. What's he doing there?" "That's my brother. I think the creature locked him in some kind of a trance." "Get Rolf now," says one of the men. An army vehicle trudges down the road. Rolf jumps out of the door and dashes over to my brother. Well, I assume his name is Rolf. I watch him lifting my brother up in a seating position. He's waving his hands across my brother's eyes. I think this gentleman is bringing my brother out of his trance-like state. I can see my brother looks like himself again. I sigh with relief as his glassy, glazed eyes appear to breathe with new life. Rolf slaps my brother affectionately on the back in a friendly gesture. "You'll be as right as rain now," he tells him. My brother looks somewhat bemused. Rolf returns to the army vehicle. The army guys jump out of the vehicle, hauling the dead creature onto a gurney, throwing him into the back of their truck. I can hear some loud exclamations, and one man's voice saying, "Ugly-looking thing, isn't he? Positively terrifying, like something you'd expect to see in a monster movie." The army guys eventually hoot and wave at us. They're very friendly, but they drive away quickly in their truck. "Move over, sis. What are you doing sitting in the driver's seat?" He pauses for a moment, looking rather bewildered. "Come to think of it, why was I sitting in the middle of the road a moment ago? With that army dude? Why did he say I would be all right? What were they putting on a gurney a moment ago? Did something die?" My brother looks befuddled. He glances at the car bonnet through the windscreen and says, "What the hell happened here? My car is so scratched up. The window's all broken." I now realise that my brother doesn't remember a thing. I look at him in amazement. "You mean you don't remember anything?" "Well, I remember going for a drive. We were discussing Dylan, were we not? But I never remember my car being beaten up like this. What happened, sis?" "Put it this way, you're lucky if you can't remember, bro. I'm not going to tell you." He looks perplexed. "What's the big secret? What are you keeping from me? Go on, tell me. Don't leave me in the dark like this." "Nothing, I say. But let's just say some things are best not remembered. Believe me, this is one of them. To cut a long story short, my brother never did regain his memory in regards to encountering that strange, incongruous creature on that inauspicious night, and I'm glad about that. I have no idea what it was, but it is, without doubt, the most horrifying creature I've ever beheld in my life. But those informed army soldiers seem to know exactly what it was. In regards to the delectable heartthrob, Dylan on the Huntington beach, I regret to tell you he did have an accident that changed his life, 5 years after my strange encounter. One day late at night he accidentally jumped into a friend's swimming pool, without realizing it had been drained of all its water. He was lucky, as the condition could have completely paralyzed him, but he was left with one leg completely crushed, and so badly damaged it couldn't be saved. So he had it amputated below his knee. It was amazing how the women who had thrown themselves at him all over the years no longer swooned over him like a hive of honeybees. I remember seeing him walking along the beach on his own, looking dreadfully sad. I felt sorry for him as I watched him hobbling over the sea sand. He was adjusting to life with one leg. It can't have been easy for him. It would seem he was no longer wearing that cocky, arrogant, aren't I God's gift to woman kind of look. "Hi," I say, running up to him. "How are you doing, Dylan? Long time no see. I'm so sorry to hear about your dreadful accident. Do you mind if I walk along with you?" He looks at me in surprise. "You want to walk with a cripple? Be my guest." "Now don't you dare put yourself down like that. I remember there was a time you thought you were the coolest dude on the ocean's surf. And actually, you were an excellent surfer." "I know I was an arrogant prick back then," he admits to me. "Although underneath it all, I was never that confident. It was all just a big act. Sometimes because you're walking around the beach with a surfboard under your arm, everyone thinks you're so cool. But it doesn't actually mean that underneath all those layers, you actually feel all that confident. I had huge issues with my self-esteem back then. I admit the girls threw themselves at me. I did enjoy the fuss and the attention. It boosted my ego. Of course, these days I don't get fussed over nearly as much. People take one look at my leg and run a mile. Sometimes I feel like I'm Freddy Krueger." "You shouldn't take it so personally. People can be rather squeamish about missing legs and stuff like that. But you're still exceedingly handsome. That hasn't changed. And it doesn't matter a jot that you're missing a leg." "I wish everyone thought as you do." "Let's go and sit over there on the beach," I suggest. Dylan looks at me gratefully, as if he can't fathom that I'm prepared to spend any time with him. Is he crazy? Does he really think he's less a person because he's missing half his leg? By all accounts, he's still a very attractive man. Possibly more so, now that he doesn't carry that haughty, vainglorious swagger of his youth. But I do see a sadness in him that makes me feel quite sorry for him, actually. "Are you sad? Are you sad that girls don't throw themselves at you anymore?" I ask curiously, wondering what it must be like to have the opposite sex drooling over you all the time like a delectable cake in the bakery. I'm not sure I would personally like it myself. It must get frustrating at times. "No, I'm not really. Most of the girls that threw themselves at me were rather shallow. They were only interested in my biceps and physique. But they didn't give a toss about me, really." "You knew that even then? That they weren't interested in you because you were the coolest surfer with a hot body? You knew that?" "Of course I knew that," he says to me. "You always know what a woman is after. It's not rocket science, you know." "Does it upset you that you aren't able to surf anymore? It must be a real bummer for you. I mean, let's not kid. You were incredible to watch out there on the ocean waves. Sometimes I would watch you from our home in the telescope. I would just be in absolute awe. You were one of the finest surfers I've ever seen." "Yes, I miss it a lot, and thanks for that. But one day I might be able to surf again, even with one leg. Well, so I'm told." "I'm sure you'll still be brilliant. You've got great balance. Can I see your new leg?" I ask. He pulls up his pants and I see his fake leg. "It's rather impressive looking," I say. "Science certainly has come a long way with the bionic man. There would have been a time when your leg would have been wooden, you know. Does it actually hurt?" "Tell me about it. I'm glad it's not wooden. But boy, it does give me grief. Sometimes it aches a lot, when it chafes against my skin. I've also suffered from phantom foot pain, you know, where I have no foot. It's a weird experience. You feel the pain on your foot, but your foot doesn't exist anymore." "Well, maybe it's there in your auric field," I suggest. He pauses for a moment, his eyes fixing on me. "Do you remember that day? Must have been about 5 years ago or something. We were on the beach here. Your brother was hovering over us like a vulture. He didn't trust me with you." "Oh, I remember that day more than you'll ever know. Actually, it was one of the most eventful nights of my entire life. Maybe one day I'll tell you about it. Needless to say, my brother warned me off you. told me that I was never to get involved with you under any circumstances, that you had a huge, monumental, inflated ego, and that I would just be another notch on your bedpost. He told me you were always boasting and bragging about the one-night stands you had with various women. Your brother's a very good man. He looks out for you. He was certainly right to protect you from the likes of me. Although, of course, I would never have used you. I didn't exactly have a good reputation back then. But the truth is, I was empty inside, very lost. Your brother was right. I had a plethora of one-night stands. I'm not proud of it. It was a shallow, empty experience that would leave me feeling very unsatisfied and unfulfilled. It was so hollow, everything I did back then. But I was looking for meaning in my life. You were empty, I asked. I thought you were deliriously happy. So many of the men envied you. They thought you had everything. Very empty. I wasn't happy at all. Miserable was possibly a more appropriate word to use. Remember when I told you I liked you, that I had my eye on you for a long time? It's true, you know. I thought about you a lot. You're not the kind of girl I would have ever had as a one-night stand, in case you're wondering. You're relationship material, a real keeper. Beautiful, interesting, funny, clever, insightful, kind. You're one in a million. My brother told me when you told me you liked me, you possibly spouted that line to all the girls. Absolutely not. Never. I've never ever told another girl I like her. Only you. Really? Why me, I ask? Well, remember you're saying to me all girls I dated looked very similar, that I had a specific type? Oh, yes, I do remember that well. Those girls were not my type. They were the ones that were throwing themselves at me. As a young man, I naturally lapped it up. But the girls like you, the interesting ones, they never showed any interest in me at all. The ones that were my type. I'm attracted to interesting women, who are unique and quirky, with a lovely sense of humour. You're also very attractive. I love your fair skin and dark hair and your blue eyes, contrary to what you might actually believe. If all this is true, why on earth did you start kissing that blonde girl after my brother was dragging me away from the beach? You wanted me to see you smooching her, didn't you? I don't know what was going on in my head then. I wanted you to be jealous. I wanted you to want me. But it was a juvenile prank to pull, I know. I really thought after your brother's reactions to me that I'd never ever stand a chance with you again. He turns to me and says, I still really like you. I swear I will never make you another notch to my bedpost, but I would really love to take you out to dinner, if you would consider dating a man with one leg. Only on one condition, I say. If you promise me you'll stop looking so sad and sorry for yourself. I promise. 1 year later, me and Dylan were married, and he is the most loyal, devoted man. So yes, a leopard can change its spots. And these days, Dylan and my brother are the very best of friends. So there you are. That's my story. Wow, what an incredible story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.